Hello lads and lasses, and welcome to episode 62 of the Roker Rapport Podcast. Today we are sponsored by Sunderland Red, who always provides good video content on match days. He's kind of given us some chocolate, hasn't he, lads?
Yep, beer as well.
Beer as well. I didn't bring the beer into university because
okay, kicked out.
Yeah. But as you can hear, we're joined today by Connor Bromley.
Hello.
How you doing?
Can't complain. Good. Had a good weekend. Enjoyed the game.
Good stuff. And as always by Gav.
How's it going? You should have introduced him as Connor Bromley of Roker Rapport TV.
I know. God, you
He's now famous and he's faces everywhere.
Plug it.
The new enterprise. And we're also joined today by Daily Express and Daily Star journalist Ian Murtagh. How you doing?
I'm fine. Hello, chaps.
And how long have you covered North East football?
Don't ask that one. It's a long time. Do you know, I was just trying to work out, and I started on the Chronicle as a Sunderland writer on the Chronicle in March 1990, the day after I came back from honeymoon. But I'd done a few matches. I'd done a couple of matches for the Shield set. I had 6 months there, and at the Northern Echo I think I did a couple as well. So I think I can remember doing 2 matches when McManaman was manager, and with the Chronicle it was very famous first match. It was Sunderland 4, West Ham 3, the Kieran Brady match it was known as.
Oh yeah.
And I remember afterwards going to interview Liam Brady, do a Brady on Brady piece, and of course Kieran pops up now. He's we see him regularly, and he's
yeah.
And
probably my favourite speaker when it comes to Sunderland at the minute. I think he speaks very well. Yeah,
he's very, very knowledgeable as well. Mm-hmm.
Very good stuff. Right, we're going to jump into the 3-word review. So this is what you had to say on Sunderland's performance against Middlesbrough. We have Mobile Mackham that says goalkeepers cause relegation.
Yep, true.
Jacob Hay says Jesus is Welsh. SAFC Dolphin says just covers crevices. Stephen Cook says kids and has-beens, but he's joined the has-beens, so meh. Stephen Cook again says Pickford on loan. Mobile Mackham says still going down. Mobile Mackham again says Steelers better. Jade Hocking, worst keeper ever. JD, I don't know, Casper the something on Twitter says useless top knot. CUNT, can't really say that. John Ridley, finally some fights. Steve A, Guerin, useless Guerin. Jack Ford, McManaman does something. Elliot Moore, not a derby. Reece Benson, enjoyable game finally. John Ramsey, papering over the cracks. Will Taylor, no more Fletcher. And we'll end with SAFC North Yorkshire, who says, is there hope? What did you think of the game, Gav?
It was strange, really. I was writing the match report for the site, and I'd already had me headline written before McManaman scored. To be honest, me outlook was completely different between before the goal and after the goal. I think that goal is huge because I think every one of us would have been talking about Sunderland and how down had that goal that went in. Obviously, scoring it gives you just the glimmer of hope that you need to can they do it? And I think it wasn't a great performance. To be honest, it was 2 poor teams in my eyes, but it was very entertaining. Probably the first time this season I've been entertained watching Sunderland. And
first time this season, first time several seasons.
Yeah, well,
for 2 years.
We've not had a great deal of exciting football to watch, particularly at the Stadium of Light. We've had some half decent away performances this season, but not anywhere near that at home. So I think you've got to try and take the positives from it, because if we don't, we will continue to spiral into that negative, cyclone that seems to be sweeping around us at the minute. We've got to try and take something from it, and what can be taken from it is that we scored 3 goals against a Tony Pulis side, which isn't often heard of. I thought Joel Asoro was very impressive. I just think we battled a little bit more, and I know it was billed as the game that's not a derby, but it did have a derby feel to it. There was plenty of excitement, red cards, the players seemed a little bit more up for it. We just got to try and be happy about it, I guess.
What was the view from the press box, Ian?
Well, very similar to Gav's. Very entertaining game, and as I say, they've been at a premium in recent seasons at the Stadium of Light. Was it a good result for Sunderland? Not really. When you're in Sunderland's position, they need to win. Was it a good performance? Yes and no. There were flaws, we knew that. But, and I think this is crucial, Sunderland's biggest failing has been the fact when they go behind, they fold it like a deck of cards. Now, they went behind twice, and they came back twice. Now, yes, they did it at Bristol City, but that was away from home. Can't remember the last time they did that at home. Of course, it would have been nice if they could have got the win. But I'm sure, it's about taking these little positives and building on it. And while, their position is still desperate, that is a positive which hopefully they will get some belief out of.
Is it a bit of a kind of a false storm, though, Connor? Because we've seen this before. We've come back, we've had semi-positive results, and we've come back from losing positions, and we don't tend to build on it. Do you think we can?
I think this weekend, I would attribute it as much to Boro. Every time went ahead, they just sat back. It was amazing, really, because they would have won that game very comfortably in the second half. When they went 2-1 up, they continued to push, and they instantly just sat off in a standard Tony Pulis way. If I was a Boro fan from that game, I would have been furious, because they should have won that game comfortably, really. Obviously, I don't want to take too much away from Sunderland. They did have the character to come back, showed little bits of quality when they needed to, and obviously defensively we were very poor, but I just think I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Boro were a very poor team, as Gav said. I've taken a few positives from it, but I can't see it making that much difference.
I think afterwards we spoke to Johnny Williams. Now, a lot of those quotes didn't get used because Chris Coleman is so eloquent, so articulate. He's great for the press. But we spoke to Johnny Williams. I think he could be crucial. He's got what I call happy feet. He can actually carry the ball. He can beat players. And as we saw, he won a free kick deep into injury time, didn't he? Now, he is injury prone, but he does look a quality player.
No, I would agree. I've really enjoyed him whenever he's played. It's a shame he cannot stay fit. I think the goal, though, will have a big impact for him, because he's barely scored a goal his whole career. I think
that's right.
It's his second career goal.
I mean, he made a big deal out of it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Afterwards, he said that his dad travels home and away if he's playing or not, and he dedicated it to his dad. So obviously meant a lot for him to score. You got to think it's been a really hard season for him. He's barely been fit. When he has been fit, he hasn't been able to stay in the team. I think our survival hinges on getting players like that in the team.
Absolutely.
I think if you can get a tune out of McManaman and players like Williams, you've got half a chance. The problem has been that since Coleman's came, there's quite clearly been more of a drift towards the youth rather than the experience. He has a lot more faith in the kids than he does in the more experienced players. I think there's got to be a balance struck somewhere where we can maybe get players like Williams in the team.
Of course, he knows Williams very well from his Welsh days.
What was interesting, I thought, about Williams was he didn't play. I mean, I've always thought of him as a central midfield player. He didn't play in the central midfield. He played out on the left. I know we were down to 10 men, but I think when you think back, Coleman hasn't used him as a central player. George Honeyman played central midfield with Catamol. Williams was out on the left, and he was quite effective, to be honest, because he's quite good in possession. You got to think Brian Oviedo, his best performances in the Sunderland shirt have came with somebody holding it up on the wing for him, letting him go beyond, get the ball in the box. Williams, perfect player, great passer of the ball, very patient, very clever, really. One of the more clever footballers that we've got. I think if you can shoehorn him in somewhere and get him to play like he did in that second half, again, we've got half a chance and we've just got to build on it.
We should also talk about the red cards. I'll start with Jake Clark-Salter, because that was a pretty meaty challenge, wasn't it, Connor?
Yeah, straight away. As soon as it happened, I was like, yep, he's off. It's funny because we put it in the group chat and there was a bit of debate, and now I Roker Rapport group chat, and I was like, couldn't see it. I was like, it's blatant a red card, as you'll see.
Depends where you sat on the ground, and it all happened very fast. I've seen the replay back, and it looks like a bad tackle.
Aesthetically, it's such a good tackle to watch, because he flips over.
20 years ago, that wouldn't have been a red card. But just these days, it is, isn't it?
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
He can have no complaints, really, can he? But he does need to be smarter than that.
He's a young lad. He's going to make mistakes. I think it was just at that time in the game where we were on top. The players seemed fired up. The crowd were as loud as I've heard them all season. I think he was just really into it, and his head went.
There was a few niggly challenges just before that. There was a few hard tackles going in, and
there was.
To be fair, it almost in a lot of ways it sort of brought everyone together quite in a weird way. The way that the formation shifted afterwards, I think, was quite good. I quite enjoyed going back to 4 at the back with Oviedo at left back and.
Well, you've been a proponent of 4 at the back for a while.
I have. That's what I was trying to segue onto there.
Noted.
Yeah, no, I think 4 at the back could be the way forward. I think Coney maybe with Browning this weekend. I wasn't impressed with John O'Shea at the weekend.
He's never dropping John O'Shea.
Do you think?
I don't think. I think he spoke so much about John O'Shea's importance to this that I think he's got more faith in him to drop him. I do. I think he's had plenty of opportunities to do it and hasn't done it.
I thought he was just particularly poor this weekend.
He's certainly the talker in the team, isn't he? You know, and his organisation quality's there to be seen, but he is slow. And John O'Shea probably didn't expect to play more. I wouldn't have thought he'd have expected to play more than 10, 12 games this season. It's
starting to show. You know, I think the start of the season he was a lot better than he was, but then he, showed at the weekend. Really, he's struggling a bit with the 3 games a week scenario, which is what we've played. Actually, that was our 3rd game in a week. O'Shea played in all of them. But then we've got another week's break to the next game, and Millwall are a very physical team, 3rd biggest team, I think, in the division.
In the league as well.
O'Shea will play because Browning's not showing himself as particularly astute in the air. We don't have anyone else, what I can think of.
The issue is really if he goes with Browning with Coney, both of them kind of pass the ball. And John O'Shea, although he's not great, he is better on the ball than them too.
And he can play left side of the central defensive partnership.
Yeah.
We saw how bad Browning was there in the Brentford game when he played left centre half, and every time the ball came to his feet, he wasn't comfortable taking it on his left, and he was just hoofing it forward with his right. When you're playing 5 at the back, you've got to have defenders who can move the ball from defence out of the wing.
It was nice to see Kone go, and I think he had a couple of those little charges forward, which he did in his first season. And yes, he was partially to blame for Patrick Bamford's first goal, but I thought he was all right. I thought out of the centre half, he was the better one.
Coney, for me, I thought was probably our strongest defender.
I would agree.
And that was his first game back for a while.
I mean, the first goal, my mate who was at the game with was fuming at the goal, and I was like, sometimes you've just got to put your hands up and say that's a good goal.
It was a good goal.
Coney gets really tight to him. It's not like he's being lazy. He's really tight to him. The lad steps off a yard, does his fantastic turn, great finish, which nobody was expecting.
Correct.
Just one of them goals. Really, you've got to move on quickly from it, and he did. To be fair, he had a good game.
Callum McManaman got Sunderland's equaliser in his first kind of meaningful contribution in the Sunderland shirt. Does he start next week for you, Connor?
Yeah, I think I sort of provisionally wrote what I would sort of play on my phone before we started. It's preparation.
Very professional.
Yes.
You've not got a notepad or a pen or anything?
No, it's in memos. It's in memos, but I can't open it because my phone's being funny.
Not remember, like?
Nah, I would say something wrong. I'd forget someone. But essentially, I would go with the back 4. I'd play Matthews over Jones because Matthews has been better for me all season. I don't know why he keeps getting left out of the team because he's been solid.
Injuries really, innit?
Yeah. Coney, Brown and centre back. I mean, maybe O'Shea, but I honestly think O'Shea was so poor at the weekend. I would drop him. Oviedo at left back. I cannot understand why he's been in and out of the team recently. I mean, apparently for tactical reasons, and he just looks like our best. Maybe not our best player, but one of our better players.
Yes, I'd agree there.
In terms of the midfield, I think we need to go with the 3 in the middle with Katz, Williams, and then whoever's fit is the other option. Maybe McNair if he's fit, but apparently he's not.
That would be a pity because he looked good. He's got a presence. He's got energy.
McNair's looked good whenever he's played for Sunderland. He's looked decent, but he just keeps getting...
but again, injuries.
And Ajaria, I think he's getting closer to coming back.
He'll be back, I think, next weekend.
So I'll probably go with him if McNair's not in. And then I think I would go with the front 3, McGeady, McManaman and Asoro.
And you've got Asoro playing through the middle.
I would play him through the middle.
We've discussed this today, and personally I think Asoro's better when he's got Magic to play off. I think, although he does possess your favourite trait, Asoro,
he wins a header.
He goes for headers, so Conor Bromley loves him.
But Conor, I take it you're putting yourself in goal, are you?
Yeah, probably.
You didn't name the goalkeeper.
Well,
that's the key one. Listen, I mean, all these years I've covered Sunderland, and for all the problems Sunderland have had over the years, in I would say 27 of the 30 seasons, goalkeeper has not been a problem. This season, all 3 have been below par, and it's probably cost the club 8 or 9 points. I was hoping Camp would be the answer. I'd seen him play quite well, but he's been as ineffective as the other 2, sadly.
Do you think they could go for maybe a free transfer goalie? Shea Given is the one that I keep...
Is Given not retired though? He's not played all year.
I know, Shea would have, I remember speaking to him when he launched his book. So would Steve Harper. Steve Harper was keen to stay here, and both of them would have done jobs. I think it's too late now.
Yeah.
But no, the 3 keepers have all been very, very disappointing.
I just think there must be a better option out there on the free agent list, because
I can't understand why I would rather give genuinely Stryjek a chance over Shea Given. I've never, I'll be honest, Stryjek, I watched the 23s at the weekend. He was largely at fault for the goal. came flying out, missed it all. But he's a young lad. You make mistakes. On the big stage, is he ready for this? Who knows? But Jordan Pickford was thrown in and did all right. What's to say he won't?
We've also got James Talbot, who's
he's back from Dalton. Yeah, strange one. That I think he came back with an injury, so I'm not sure if he's back fit yet.
I think you've got to stick with Lee Camp, and
I think that's what'll happen.
You've got to you can't keep changing your goalkeepers.
Nah, but he's costing. He
has
looks no better.
Well, you've got to
correct.
This is what I'll say in defence of Camp. He hadn't played all year. He's coming in and went straight in. He's probably going to take some time to adjust. I mean, if he can start putting in match-winning performances for the last 10 games of the season, maybe.
He's not played. It was at Rotherham last was where he was playing every week, and they got relegated.
Well, Cardiff signed him as the first choice in the summer. Neil Warnock did, and then he got injured. Etheridge, the second choice, came in. Has been brilliant. He wasn't able to dislodge him.
No,
I think with Camp, we've all seen over the years him playing in the Championship that he can be quite competent, and I think that's what's keeping him in at the moment, because we know that Steele and Reuter can't really. And just to go back onto this Asoro point, I think I'd prefer Asoro with Madja through the middle. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Gav. Can Asoro play up front by himself?
I've never seen him play well there when I have seen him play, but then I think he's improved so much under Coleman that he's not a bad shout.
Well, he's only 18 years old.
Yeah. He's, you're talking about him or Madja, him or Fletcher. Doesn't matter really at this stage. I don't think either of the other two are particularly great. I think, though, you've got to remember Asoro's good form has come playing off the right, tucking in, like you say, winning headers against fullbacks. Played very well there. I don't know why you would move him, to be honest, if he's playing well somewhere. The problem we've got is we don't have a competent striker.
For me, my thought process of putting him up there is so we can try and get quality on the way. Like, obviously Azoro's quality, but get McManaman and McGeady's on the way.
I don't think he likes playing with wingers, though. That's the problem. I think if he's going to play McManaman or McGeady, they'll play down the middle.
I think so. Asoro likes to play the channels. He likes to inside, the old-fashioned inside right, inside left. He likes to create his own space, doesn't he?
It'll be interesting to see what midfield. I think it all hinges on who's fit in the centre of midfield. Because I think if Ovie Ajari's fit, he plays because of his height. Like I said before, Millwall are such a big team that we're kind of forced into playing like that. Which is why I don't think Honeyman will play. Why Williams probably won't start. Even though I said I would like to see him play, I don't think he'll start in this game. Maybe a bit too rough and tumble for him.
But of course, it was against Millwall. He did his shoulder.
Yeah, it was. You're right.
Well, you've got the other results of the weekend. You had Birmingham, who lost to Barnsley, so that's kind of tightened things up down there. We still lie 4 points from safety, so the draw hasn't really helped, despite the kind of positive conditions. I ask this every week, but Connor, do you think we're going to stay up?
No, I don't. It's going to take a miracle, really. I mean, we're basically 5 points in as well, because my goal difference is so crap. So it's where you're going to pick up. You've got to pick up 5 more points than the other teams in 12 games. And that's a really big ask. You're looking at winning probably 5 of the last 12. We've only won 5 all season, so why would we win 5 out of 12?
Your mindset will. I know for a fact all of our mindsets will change if we pick 3 points up at the weekend.
Oh, yeah,
and there's only a couple of points back in it. It's game on again.
I don't know. Ian's probably the guy to ask because he's not as biased as us.
Well, and I've seen a lot more relegation battles. It's going to be difficult, James. It's not impossible because it is only 4 points, 5 points with goal difference, and they've been in tougher situations like this. The fact they haven't had back-to-back wins for so long is a real negative in that, isn't it? I do like Chris Coleman, and I think he has injected some sort of, should we call it, passion, enthusiasm in the team. But there are some difficult fixtures. Let's face it, this was meant to be the relatively easy spell. Ipswich at home, Bolton away, Brentford home wasn't that toughest combination of fixtures. You won't get much on paper. It's easier fixtures, in fact. So it's going to be very, very difficult. But as Gav says correctly, everyone's whole mindset will change with an away win.
And hopefully we'll get that win right. We're going to take a quick promotional break. We'll see you very shortly. Hello and welcome back to the Roker Rapport Podcast. We're going to throw a few Twitter questions out there. We've got one from Dazaman06, who asks, will it come down to the last game of the season against Wolves? I'd forgotten we had Wolves last game of the season. That doesn't bode well, does it, Gav?
No, trying to blank it from your memory. I hope it doesn't come down to the last game. I hope we're well safe by then, but I think they'll have won the league by that point. Though they'll be riding the crest of a wave, probably be getting the trophy that day. So it's a game you could do without, isn't it? But you've got to play everybody twice. That's the way it is. We always tend, I don't know what it is about Sunderland, but we always seem to play a really good team last game of the season. So in the past, it's worked all right for us. Like, obviously not last season, but we're normally safe by the last game, so we're all right. But I'm a little bit worried about that. And I don't want to look too far ahead. Like I said before the break, win at the weekend and everything looks totally different for Sunderland, and it's hinging game by game now. Michael Oates wrote a really good article for the site last week. Said there was 13 cup finals left, and I know it's a cliche, but you couldn't be more right, really, because we win at the weekend and everything changes. The problem with the comeback against Bristol City was that we didn't build on it. We went straight to the next game, got thumped. We have to build on this. Like, obviously, like I said before, the difference between winning and losing at the weekend is massive. And obviously this week we feel a little bit better about things, and I think if we're going to this game at the weekend and we play exactly like we did against Middlesbrough, with a high tempo, getting at them from the start, they've shown they can do it. They showed against Hull they could do it. They showed against Bristol they could do it. They showed again at the weekend they can do it. But they need to start doing it in the must-win games.
You're right, and it's too late to start saying, to get draws and say at least remaining unbeaten, because I think, if you look at Newcastle in the Premier League, I think that's their problem. They're drawing games while the likes of Huddersfield might be losing a couple, then winning. And 3 points for win. You would rather win one, lose one, one, lose one than three.
Coleman said that, didn't he, when he came in? Coleman talked about that when he came in. Yeah. He said, if we can do that, win one, lose one, draw one between now and the end of the season, we'll be all right. Problem is, like you say, we haven't won anywhere near enough games. I think we're still the lowest. Are we in the league? Wins?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's won less games than Sunderland.
I think Burton's next was 6 or 7.
We've actually shown we can score goals now, but it's whether you can sustain it, isn't it? And obviously he's got a big decision to make up front, whether Madger or Fletcher play. I think that forward line clicking at some point will define whether we stay up or not. Absolutely. Because we know the defence is poor. We need somebody to step up and start scoring goals. I think he would have liked to have had a fully fit Kazenga Lualua to pick. He hasn't had him. He would have been ideal at the weekend. That game at the weekend, when it was hanging in the balance, somebody like that who just commits defenders and runs at people. To be fair, McManaman did it when he came on, which is why I'm an advocate for him starting at the weekend. I'm not his biggest fan. I don't think he's got a great deal to offer. But one thing he does do when he's got the ball is he likes to run at people. He likes to jink. He likes to turn. And that's how you create chances at this level, because the quality of defending and goalkeeping is very, very poor. And we don't test teams enough. And I think it's about time we just took a gamble and we said, let's just go at teams for once and try and win the game.
Do you know what? We haven't asked Chris Coleman for a few weeks now about Darren Gibson, and I think he's still a few weeks off. But
I think it transpired the other day that he's back a few weeks ahead of fit. He's back training now, isn't he? Yeah,
that'd be interesting, because I'd like to see him with Asoro in the team. I think he'd be. Yeah, but I think that would be a nice little combination.
He said he was back fit, back doing some light work. And said he's about 3-4 weeks ahead of schedule.
That'd be great.
So,
good news.
Well, he was our best player before he got injured. He was. That's something to look forward to, because Lee Cattermole is so inconsistent. You could do with somebody else.
He is inconsistent, but he's admirable as well. I thought on Saturday watching that game, he does try and drive the team forward. He did some very good balls. He also gave the ball away. He's a mixture, but. I am a Lee Cattermole fan. Yes, the legs have gone to a certain extent, and I was dreading him going in for Takma Traore. But he tries to do the right things, and his mentality is spot on.
This leads me on to a question from Tom on Twitter, actually, about Lee Cattermole. I know we are awful and have been for a while, but do you think people overreact or criticise when a player makes a mistake? Or Cats takes a free kick due to our current situation? It just appears, particularly on Twitter, that people scrutinise everything a bit too much.
It's social media, isn't it? Like people do. You got that platform to say that somebody's shit, and you can do that, and people do it. But people do criticise certain players like Cattermole, like John O'Shea, because they've been there for so long, and I think people are sort of sick of them in a lot of ways, especially John O'Shea's gets, for me, a lot of unjust criticism at times, although he was poor at the weekend, and I would say that, but sometimes he's getting criticised, and like, look at the players around him.
I can remember Callum's debut for Sunderland. It was Brucey's first game down at Bolton.
Yeah.
And I got a bit of stick. I described his performance as Gerrard-esque. And I'm not saying he was as good as, but it was that kind of. But it was one of the best debuts I've seen for Sunderland.
I remember.
Famously, people remember Stan Varga, centre half, who never played another game quite like that. But Lee Cattermole's first game at Bolton 1-0 win was absolutely outstanding.
I think we've got to remember as well, Cattermole started at like 16, and he's 30 now.
Maybe he's 29. I think he's
maybe he hasn't got many. He hasn't got many more years.
How many players?
There's a lot of mileage on the clock.
Years.
A lot of mileage and a lot of wear and tear as well.
Yeah,
well, again, the comparison's not strictly accurate, but of course, this is what people have been saying about Wayne Rooney, in that he started at 16, and people say, the decline did set in.
Michael Owen's another case of that, where the injuries pile up.
Absolutely.
People who aren't naturally athletic, basically, you wouldn't describe Cattermole as an athletic person. He's got where he is through a lot of hard work, I would imagine. But I suppose that's kind of where we've fallen down a lot, is we don't have a lot of experience in the team, so the ones that we have got, we've had to rely on too much.
Yes.
And like when Gibson was fit, Cattermole was injured. When Cattermole's been fit, we've never had them both really for very long. I wouldn't strictly play them together, but it would be nice to be able to rotate the two, wouldn't it?
I'd be interested to hear your opinions, Ian, on what you make of the stadium of atmosphere and the scrutiny the team receive at the moment, probably from Roker Rapport and the likes of Wiseman saying Ellis as well. What do you make of that as an impartial journalist? Is it a hindrance or is it a help?
Do you know what? I always see myself as a partial journalist because I'm passionate for North East success. But I take your point. I despair when I see that ground now, because the Stadium of Light, when it's rocking, is a sight to behold. I'm thinking back to the first ever derby against Newcastle, when I remember Bobby Robson, Kieran Dyer got stick from Newcastle fans for talking about the atmosphere. Of course it's the acoustics, it's the ball, it's the fans. But those two games against Chelsea and Everton, I remember the journalist Rory Smith was covering it for the Times that day, and he said he'd never heard an atmosphere like it after the Defoe goal against Chelsea. So this is what we're comparing it with. This is what that stadium is capable of, and I don't like to see the empty seats. I had a word with Martin Bain back at the beginning of the season. I said, look, you've got to close that up a tier, just bring everyone down. But I think logistically it was impossible. Heaven forbid if they go down, but they certainly will have to do that next year. Going back a few years. Are any of you, can you remember when Bob Murray and John Fickling they developed the stadium, and of course I can't remember which one said it, but he said we always want to have one more seat than Newcastle. And of course at the time Sunderland had the 48,000 capacity, and they could fill it. And this is something probably your listeners don't want to hear, but in hindsight it was a huge mistake to go from 42 to 48, because I think over the last 2 decades, there have only been a couple of seasons where they could fill that. There have been a lot of free tickets. Better to have a supply that is a demand greater than a supply than the other way around. And I think part of the problems that the club has been, the free tickets, they have probably overestimated support. Sunderland are one of the most magnificent away supports in the country. They've got a very, very good home support, but it's. And again, I could leave myself open to criticism from your listeners. It's not. It shouldn't have a stadium of 48,000 because it doesn't have the consistent support for that. Of course, they do if they finish 5th, 6th, 7th under Reedy, but the stadium is too big for the sport, and massively too big for the sport right now. I don't know what you three think.
It was built for a different era, I think. When they built it after 99, 2000, it went up to 48, and the ground was rocking. I remember
it was, yes.
We used to get tickets. My dad would wait on the phone for hours to get through, to get tickets for us to go to games. And
they got 30,000 for reserve games.
I know.
Reserve games.
So you watched the famous documentary Premier Passions back, and they didn't foresee this. The architects of that stadium, they foresaw a strong Sunderland in the Premier League pushing for Europe.
That's right.
That's what it should have been.
And the extension was done on the back of 2 very, very good seasons.
Yes, 2 7th places. That's right.
So I guess at the minute we're kind of suffering from that. It's become a bit of a laughing stock nationally from people who don't understand the situation, don't understand why Sunderland fans aren't filling the stadium. also a lot of it comes from fans of teams who would dream of the crowds we get now. 27,000 people or whatever still turning up. It's amazing that even 10,000 turn up.
Sunderland fans should take a patent out on the adjective long-suffering, because when you hear Arsenal, and even lots of friends who are Newcastle fans, and of course they've got a terrible problems with Mike Ashley, and but they had so many seasons in Europe. Middlesbrough have had seasons in Europe. How many this season? 3 top half finishes since 1955.
It's funny you mention that, actually.
It's frightening.
I went to the Wise Men Say Talking on a Saturday at the Peacock, and Liam Brady was the speaker, actually.
Kieran
Brady, sorry, was the speaker, and he spoke quite eloquently about him being considered in very high regard by Sunderland fans, and he made the point that he's only played 30 times and he's got cult status, and he's fondly remembered because Sunderland fans haven't had that much to look back on with glee. And he also made the point that it's a disgrace that football stadium has never seen any form of Europa League football or Champions League football.
Well, it was so close at one stage. I remember that I think it was the second, 7th place, and Sunderland were 2-0 up against Tottenham.
Oh yes.
And I remember sitting with the other journalists. I was like, "Hey, Europe with Sunderland next season, this is going to be fantastic." And of course, they lost it 3-2. A guy called Gary Doherty scored a goal for Spurs. Can you remember him?
Yeah,
he scored 2, I think.
And of course, the next seat, Quinny was on his way out. Kevin Phillips couldn't reproduce the goods, and the decline set in, really, didn't it?
It was getting rid of Hutchinson, I think. Well, that's what I was attributed to.
Yep.
That sale
fair
was
point.
Detrimental.
Well,
just very good players, getting old, really.
Yeah, that's right.
Not replacing. Anyway, we'll move on to some takeover talk, because I'm interested to try and pick Ian's brains on what he knows or doesn't know about any potential takeover talks, because the Germans were rumoured to be back in the northeast the weekend.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
I heard the German consortium wasn't taken particularly seriously last summer. That's what I was told. Do you know that this club? It is a remarkably good value when you look at the state-of-the-art training facilities and the ground. I know I was saying the ground in hindsight shouldn't have been 48,000, but it is. It's one of the biggest stadiums in the country, and of course that horrible word which keeps all Northeast fans going, called potential. So it is a great proposition for somebody. I just wish somebody would come, because clearly it needs to happen. The one thing about Ellis Short, and I think it's, people are looking at Short and Ashley. If you look at Mike Ashley at Newcastle, he went in with, for want of a better term, a sinister game plan. He wanted that to be a franchise for his down-market sports retail business, and he splattered 150 logos here, there, and everywhere. If you go to Fawcett Street or Durham City or wherever the Sunderland fans would say, what's Ellis Short's business? I would hazard a guess up to 50% of people wouldn't have a clue.
I would say more.
Well, yeah. So he didn't come in here to promote himself. He came in here basically, and if you remember back in 2008, we could have been in this situation then. There was the crash of the Irish economy. The Drummondville lost a lot of their money, and it was a very, very seamless transition, wasn't it? We thought it was all a clever move. Niall Quinn persuading this Irish-American billionaire. It's funny how we now call him an American billionaire.
Yeah.
But he came in and it all seemed very smooth and everything, and there was no crisis out of that drama, was it? And of course, since then, it's not been a case of like Mike Ashley's trying to bleed the club dry. It's just been there's been a lot of good intentioned decisions, but there've been so many wrong decisions. Not necessarily the managers coming in. Maybe some of the sackings were wrong. The Di Canio one was probably the wrong one, we know that. But, the managers that have come in, there's been very, very few that anyone has been particularly upset about it. Most of them have been heralded by the fans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but, I think it's just a gradual disillusion by this man I think he's fallen out of love with Sunderland, he's fallen out of love with football, and by all accounts he's fallen out of love with Britain, going back to live in the sun in Florida.
He's an interesting character, I find. I find his mystique very, very interesting.
Almost an absent owner at the moment, isn't he?
Well, he is. Chris Coleman confirmed as much last week when he said he's never spoke to him.
Right.
He's a he obviously there's reasons. I'm led to believe personal reasons why he isn't in the spotlight, why he isn't out there. But then you have to ask, well, why do you own a football club? Because you kind of expect it to be like that, And obviously, we're hearing now that he wants to give the club away for free, provided the debt's taken on. Well, good luck to him if he can get rid of the club that way. I think
if that is true, we've got no reason to suppose it's not. History will treat him kinder than people are treating him now.
perhaps.
I think Ellis Short, he's been unlucky. I think he's probably one of the most unlucky football people you'll come across, because I actually think he was nearly a good football owner. He was very nearly a good football club owner. He just never had the right people surrounding him. He's constantly made bad appointments and he's bored. Margaret Byrne, Martin Bain is, I would say, ultimately he's been poor. He's given a hard job. He's been basically told to asset strip the club, essentially, to try and pay off debt, and that was never going to be an easy job for anyone. But ultimately, Short's just been a victim of, as you say, just really bad decisions.
I wouldn't necessarily call him a victim. I would say that he's just trusted the wrong people with his own money, and he's
Got his fingers burnt, hasn't he?
Basically. But the problem is he had a very good football person there, and Niall Quinn, of course, fell out with him. And that all went. You could probably.
Of course, Roy Keane.
And of course, yeah. Two people who had this club going in the right direction. He fell out with them. The reasons of which we'll maybe never find out fully. But
for me, the great white hope that was so disappointing was the kind of failure of Martin O'Neill.
I know.
I thought when we appointed Martin O'Neill, I thought, right, we've got this now.
Do you know, it's one of the biggest mysteries of my journalistic career, what happened there. And I know this sounds oversimplistic. It was, he never recovered from the grief of losing that FA Cup 6th round replay against Everton.
I remember that.
I can remember him going into the press room, and he was grief-stricken. He thought he was going to Wembley, and he barely put a foot wrong, and something drained out of him that day. And yet, that summer, he got Stephen Fletcher and
He Who Shall Not Be Named.
He Who Shall Not Be Named. And I can remember when I was flying back from Greece with Newcastle, that had been a European qualifier, and I was sitting with George Colkin and a couple of other journalists, and we landed in Farnborough Airport because Newcastle were playing Chelsea the next day. Put our phones down, and Alan Pardew and John Carver were two or three seats in front of us, got our phones, and we said, Sunderland have signed Stephen Fletcher and He Who Shall Not Be Named, and they went, "You're joking," and they were really, really worried. Then they thought, this is it. And of course, if you remember, on paper, it was the two wingers, the other one being James McLean, who'd had a great season earlier, and then Fletcher with Session just behind on paper. That looked a very, very good front forward, didn't it?
And obviously, he had a very strong defensive mentality, O'Neill, didn't he? So you thought
it never worked.
Just never worked.
Do you know what? One of the things I think killed O'Neill as well, because momentum's quite a lot in football and organisation and stuff. It was the postponed first game of the season at home against Reading.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
I remember everyone was buzzing for the new signings. I was buzzing. I remember going over it at rain.
Why was that? I forgot why it was rain.
It's because
they had concerts on over the summer, and
I just think we never really got going from that moment.
But when it was eventually played, they won it 3-0, didn't they? And you thought, this is right, the season could take off, but it never did. And I think it was the Norwich game, wasn't it, where Ellis Short had made up his mind to axe O'Neill, because I think Sunderland played against a 10-man Norwich for about at least 40 minutes and never looked like breaking them down. And then the following week,
and I think we had Chelsea after that. Then it was the Newcastle game, so it was crunch time in the season.
That's right.
Do you think O'Neill missed his assistant, whose name's gone?
John Robertson. Yes.
Do you think that's what it was?
Undoubtedly, it was strange because I've covered a few Ireland games. There's a lot of the North East press cover Ireland regular basis, but I follow Ireland as well, and I was out there with I was out for the two legs against Denmark, and his mood afterwards, after the hammering at the Aviva Stadium, was very similar. It reminded me of that Everton day. But yes, I think he very much does miss John Robertson. He has surrounded himself with the same figures since his days at Leicester. There was Robertson, Steve Walford, strange man, very, very quiet. He'd go off and have a cigarette at half time. And then there's Seamus McDonagh, Steve Guppy, and it's the same guys. But John Robertson, I do think he missed him quite significantly.
He's very much in his former manager Brian Clough's kind of school of thought, isn't he?
Yes.
Brian Clough always had to have his strong assistant behind him in Peter Taylor, and then kind of tailed off when Peter Taylor left.
Yes.
But it's strange. Right, we'll move on to Joel Asoro, because there's been a couple of transfer rumours about him. Possibly off to Watford. There's been rumours circulated about PSG, Bayern Munich. He's 18 years old, he's highly rated, he's got 1 year left on his deal, and he's important.
What I will say about that is if you remember when originally Asoro's agent came out speaking him up, all these top European teams, I think when he was 16-year-old, he's got, PSG are interested, this and the other. He's playing well, and he's playing regularly. He's got a year left on his deal. Wouldn't surprise you if it was just his agent getting his name out there again, just talking him up, basically. Watford are buying everyone at the minute, aren't they? So,
you've nailed it there, Gav. Asoro's agent. I think he was on the phone to Martin Bain within minutes of the final whistle when he scored. Was it the winning goal? Was it Hull? When he scored the winning goal? I think he was on the phone to him. And Asoro, he's very different personality-wise from Madja.
I've been told that.
He knows his own worth. He knows he's on a journey. He's got great belief, and I don't think this club will tug at the heartstrings in a way it will with some of the younger players.
Yeah, I've been told as much. Madja's a different type of kid,
Watching him celebrate at the weekend, I thought he looked like he kind of gets it.
Maybe he does, but as Ian says, he's on a journey. He came to this country from Sweden.
Yes.
His family moved over with him. The club put them up in a house, gave them jobs. He like you say, he knows his own worth. He knows Sunderland in the Championship isn't the top for him. He's got, and obviously a foreign kid playing regular football in the Championship is going to attract interest.
That's right.
Do you think the club's going to be in a position where they have to sell him? And if 10 million came in for him, and I'll just throw that figure out. I think
let's just say I'd be delighted if that was the case, because that means if he was going to be worth 10 million in May, at the end of May, then he's going to be scoring 5 or 6 more goals.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's a win-win, I would have thought.
Just think an 18-year-old though who looks, I think for all you can tell that he looks like he's going to be a good player.
Yeah, he does.
And the way the transfer market is at the minute, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the sort of fee that they'll ask. Certainly, I'd be upset as a fan if it was less than that.
Yes.
Seeing some of the transfer fees we've seen over the last year.
I think if we go down, we're going to struggle to hold on to him, though.
We'll struggle to hold on to him, I think, if we stay up. For the reason Connor just said, he's got a year left on his deal.
Yeah.
1 year is not a long amount of time. Sunderland aren't going to risk keeping him for a year and losing him for nothing.
I think we need to sell him to a team as well. Watford would be the right sort of team for me, because if they sell him to Arsenal or PSG, they'll get no sell-on fee.
I would severely doubt if Arsenal or PSG were interested in Joel Asoro, if I'm honest.
I
think he's a good player.
It's funny what you were saying there, Gav, because we're talking about mistakes of the past, and we're talking about bad decisions. I think, looking back, some of the bad decisions have been not selling players at the right time.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to lose the best players, but if you remember, Kevin Phillips could have gone for twice as much the previous season, and fans hate seeing their favourite players go. But it's a fact of footballing life, and there's been a lot of players who could have left Sunderland for much higher than they eventually did.
That fire sale that summer was going off on a tangent, but I remember Sorensen going for pennies, Gavin McCann going for pennies.
That's right.
We undercut ourselves a lot of the time.
We as fans will need to get used to being a selling club. We will sell out our best young players now, and that's going to be just the way it is. For now.
My problem, I guess, is that in the case of Pickford in the summer, we didn't see a penny of that go back into the squad, and that's really, really frustrating. I hope if we do, there was obviously rumours about Ethan Robson. He's out of contract in the summer. The big Scottish clubs looking at him. I think it's just something we've got to prepare ourselves for. We've gave these kids a lot of exposure this season, and people will be looking at them. They're not, just the fact of the matter, isn't it?
Right, we'll have a little look ahead to the Millwall game. Millwall have only lost one game since Boxing Day, won the last 3. Not lost at home since the 4th of November when Burton beat them 1-0. They're pretty solid defensively, only conceded 35 goals, scored 40, 3 more than Sunderland, and they're currently 12th, 6 points off the playoffs.
Banging form.
Good. I'm very glad that you've utilised all my stats that I did for you.
He's got to get it in, hasn't he?
I don't know. You spent the whole time ripping my shit, so I thought I may as well take the praise where I can. I think
Bromley produced the show without knowing what producing a show meant, so credit to him.
Shut up. No, for the game of the weekend, hard game. think it'll be a struggle. I'd be surprised if they get anything really.
Depends. Does that keep her playing for them again?
I was going to say, because he was a
I want
nightmare.
to chuck a couple in.
Oh yeah, the game.
Right, I won't be playing for us, but
I just think they're in form, and I think they'll be having. This is probably the first game they've thought where they are in playoff contention.
big ugly teams are the type that we don't want to be facing, which is what Millwall are. A big ugly team who will bash you from pillar to post for 90 minutes and graft their asses off for the manager and the club they play for. To be honest, they're a club I'm very envious of in that sense, because they've got a team of very hard-working, limited players who have bought into the culture of the club, and I quite like watching Millwall play. To be honest, I think that although they're not like as technically beautiful, I guess, as Wolves, they're still a good side to watch, and they know how to play. I'm worried about the game at the weekend, if I'm honest.
I think, what you said, Connor, this is probably the one game, if they win it, they can start thinking we could sneak into the playoffs. If they don't win it, then they're pretty much safe and they can start looking forward to the holiday. So it's probably not the best time to be playing them.
I suppose they might maybe be believing their own hype now, because they are starting to get a bit of hype because they've been playing so well, and they might, I don't know, maybe take this game for granted in a similar sense of what Bristol City did the second half against a few weeks ago.
What I don't want to see is us play like we have done against big ugly teams like Birmingham away, for instance, when I was down there. A big physical team who like to play in the air. Sunderland tried to play like them and it didn't work. We've done that too often this season against big ugly teams. Try to play up in the sky, hoofing it long, very direct. I don't understand that whatsoever. I think, like I said before, Sunderland's strength is in keeping it down and going at teams with the few, creative players we've got. And if we can get an early lead like we did against Boro, it gives you. It's said over and over, isn't it, about Sunderland, that you can usually tell within 5 minutes what kind of game it's going to be. You can. First 5 minutes, you know exactly whether Sunderland are going to turn up or not. And at the weekend, the first 5 minutes, I was confident because I thought, oh, great. But it's about how we follow it up. It can't be stressed enough that Coleman said about the oh God, what game was it? We've lost that many of them. It was only the other week.
Brentford, Ipswich.
I think it was the Brentford game when it was a Brentford game when he said that, after the game he came out and he said, he basically said they weren't told to play like that. He said it was maybe a bit of nerves, this, that and the other. They've got to get over that eventually, because we are getting down to the nitty gritty. I've said this, I think maybe a few weeks back on the show, that you will see the true worth of Chris Coleman and the type of manager he is when the pressure's really on, and it's like when we've been in the Premier League before and we've got 8 games, we're like, if we don't start winning games, we're down. Until that pressure's on them, I'm struggling to see which way this is going, to be honest, but a win would be massive, to be honest.
Can I have a score prediction from you guys, please?
God, I'm not confident. I think if Millwall have watched us play against teams like them at all, it won't be hard to beat. 2-0 Millwall, I'm going.
Connor Bromley, your score prediction?
I'll say 1-0 Millwall.
Ian Murtagh?
I'm going to say 2-2.
2-2. We're going to go into the usual feature, the 20-second feature, where I throw questions at you. Ian, are you taking part in this? What
I'll keep... yes.
I throw 20 seconds at you with a question. You've got to make a compelling argument, make your case, and then I'll be the judge. Gav's 2-0 up in the series, so chance for Connor to claw back. The question will be your favourite Sunderland player of all time.
Oh, hey.
Who wants to go first? Gav, you get to choose who goes first since you're winning the series.
Connor, put the pressure on because he just said about 4 times. So.
Right, Connor Bromley from Blythe. You have 20 seconds starting from now.
I'm going to say Stefan Schwartz, because he was blonde and I was a blonde child when I did have hair, even though I'm losing it now. And he scored that amazing goal against Arsenal where he did that volley chip thing in like 01 or 2, and that was a great goal. I always remember it. So yeah, Stefan Schwartz.
Nice, 15 seconds.
I'm normally overrun, so I was trying to be concise.
We'll leave the guest till last, so we'll go with Gav. 20 seconds starting from now.
My favourite player of all time supporting Sunderland is Julio. I just literally changed my mind as I said that. I was going to go with Niall Quinn, but no, Julio. Mainly because as a player, I thought in a troubling time as a club when we didn't have a lot of money, he stuck around, he showed his quality and got us up twice, I think. So yeah, Julio.
Stop.
I think that was a poor entry by Gav.
Right.
Took him ages to spit it out.
Ian,
stop putting thoughts in his mind just because you want to win this one.
Oh, don't listen to him anyway. Never mind on the podcast. Ian, you have 20 seconds starting from now.
Well, I'm going to say Niall Quinn, and it's not just because favourite player, favourite person, because, of course, his work as a chairman as well, and as an ambassador for Sunderland. What the great thing about Niall Quinn was fans up and down the country were envious of Sunderland because they had Niall Quinn, and I think that was a great time to be a Sunderland fan.
Oh, that was very good. I think Gav's decision to change from Julio Walker to Niall Quinn has lost him it. I think Ian wins that one. Congratulations.
Who finished second?
The professional journalist comes on. Who finished second?
There's no, you don't win anything for being second.
I'm not sure. Well, I think that's a wrap. Ian, thank you very much for
I
coming on
enjoyed
the pod.
it.
We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
We've just started a new venture, Roker Rapport TV. Connor, do you want to give a quick summary of that for our loyal listeners?
Well, it's kind of like this, but you get to see me and James's face.
Yeah. We argue a bit.
It's filmed at Beehive Studios.
Yes.
Make sure I plug that. And it's good. It's good banter. Basically, it's just what me and James do every day at uni, but on it with a camera.
I enjoyed it, actually. I thought it was really well produced. Good lighting, good cameras. The content was alright. No, it was good. It went down well as well. I think for a first episode to get around 2,000 people to watch it, it's not bad, really. So well done.
There's kind of like an area. There's no good Sunderland YouTube content.
Yeah,
so.
We did this little bit of research didn't we, beforehand. No offence to anyone like listening.
But that Jackarini's quite good.
Yeah, there's not a great deal of stuff out there for Sunderland fans on YouTube. YouTube is massive in football now. It's a form of media almost as big as what we do and what people do, because you look at like what that Arsenal fan thing, which I'm not a great fan of, but I mean,
gets hits.
Hundreds of thousands of people watch that channel. It's obviously very, very influential and people enjoy it, so it's a route to go down. Sunderland fans have got something to watch now.
We've had some nice messages of praise, but we've also had some pelters as well. FTN Bezza, I'd like to say that you're a knob and nobody likes you.
We got called melts.
We get called melts, but yeah, it's water off a duck's
Somebody
back,
was saying, actually, I was reading, they were saying they liked James, but they didn't know which one James was. And they were like, is he the camp one?
Yeah, the distinguishing feature was Bromley's camp voice.
So apparently I'm camp.
Apparently we'll pick on you. That was another thing.
Yeah, I am a bit bullied, actually.
Apparently you get to pick on the podcast.
Yeah, I can take it though. James is probably like, he's bitey. So you kind of pick on James.
They call me Chomp for a reason.
Yeah, he just bites at everything. He's
anyway,
Welsh apparently.
He's
Welsh, but he's from Hendon.
You had to get the dig in. My dad's Welsh, man. Right, anyway, if you want some more Sunderland related content, make sure you head over to rokerreport.com. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter at the Roker Report, we're on Facebook, and we're very happy to announce that we are now in partnership with Number 2 Church Lane, who have agreed to sponsor us for a little while. Head over there, there's some nice burgers. The Pluck and Swine, I would recommend. It's like a chicken burger with Parmesan sauce on. Can't beat it.
Nice.
Very good. You've been before, haven't you, Gav?
Once. I can't remember what I got though. But it was nice. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, it was good, Brom.
Good
I think I'm gonna take you for a mate date, and we'll go and review the burgers.
I've never been, but I'm sure it's nice.
It's just opposite the Empire Theatre for anybody that doesn't know.
There we go.
Any final words, lads?
No, any inside information?
Keep the faith. That's what I say.
Ian, any inside information?
That's what I say. The takeover happening.
Tell you what, one point I thought you could say, where did Sunderland's problems, and I remember last year David Moyes said to the press lads, he was very media friendly at first. He said, any help you can give me, and I came up with this theory about loan deals, and I said that the thing, Sunderland's loan deals had been the root cause of the problem, because the loan players have been so successful that the moment the season finished and they left, a club was weaker.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look right away, you've got the likes of Mvia, of course. You had the likes of Alonso
Johnny
and
Evans.
Danny Rose, Johnny Evans, even you
Danny
could say
Simpson.
Nicholas Bentner, had not a bad season. So the moment, who was the one you said there?
Danny Simpson.
Yeah.
Key.
Well, yeah.
Key as well,
Key was, of course. So the moment the season finished, Sunderland, who had just fought off relegation and were trying to get stronger, one of their best players left.
Yeah.
And so that I've always had this theory about the loan signings have been.
Stop loaning players.
Yeah, I think a lot of Sunderland fans would definitely.
You'll have
agree
to
with that.
utilise the low market when you're at the bottom of League
You
One.
do.
Though.
You do, but you need to have replacements lined up.
No, it's true. We've always thought as well, when we've had the chance to buy these players, the club's often been like, we can do better than them, so we're going to buy
we can do better
Rodwell
than
instead
Alonso.
of Key. Yeah, we'll buy Van Aanholt. To be fair, Van Aanholt's all right instead of Alonso.
You just wonder if Danny Rose, if money had gone in there, because he wouldn't have gone in as a first team regular at Spurs, but he was terrific.
But what about Jan Mvia? You probably have an idea why Jan Mvia didn't happen, but we just were all scratching our heads.
Yeah,
the guy wanted to sign, we had a deal wrapped up for him, and he was brilliant, and they would say, no.
I think the money problems that were there by then.
Yeah. We weren't going to pay $100,000 a week to a player.
Yeah.
No,
unfortunately.
Our board aren't really forthcoming with 100 grand a week paychecks, are they?
I would have finished bottom with like 29 points instead of 20.
Anyway, thank you all very much for listening once again. Thank you, Ian, for coming in. Connor, it's been a pleasure. Gav, it's been a pleasure.
No
I've
problem.
been James Copley. I will be around for the next pod next week after Millwall. Let's hope it's a positive result. Cheers.